Some people are yet to come, I think. Half an hour early. Throws people off sometimes. We'll wait for a minute and then start. Back from Atirudram in Atlanta. That is good. Last day, yeah. Wonderful. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vapranashchakshusrotramadho Balamindrigani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaste magi santu te magi santu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Ya ete brahmaloke tam va etam devaha atmanam upasate tasmat tesham sarve cha loka. And it's not aptaha, that's a mistake. Attaha. Sarve cha kamaha. Sasarvamscha lokan. Apnoti. Sarvamscha kaman. Yaha. Tamatmanam anuvidya vijanati iti ha prajapatihi Uvacha Prajapatiruvacha. Yeah. This is concluding the teachings, and what is the sum of the teachings before we even get to the verse, so that we understand the beautiful progression from the Mahapratigya, which was what? Atma apahata papma, and how that itself was unfolded in the first verse, in the first mantra, and the first mantra becomes a thesis statement for revealing the purport of the entire chapter, or the entire 8th chapter. And here the method that is, there are certain pedagogical methods, tools that have been deployed that I want to take the time to point out. We'll use half of the class for that and the other half for the, much beloved inner child, and looking at it from a practical perspective. But this is very interesting. So let us take a look at the summary of the teachings. This is called Simhavalokanam. Simhavalokanam means the lion, after having the lion's share. That's what the expression lion's share. It kills, and the prey is there, and even the family will not eat. Even the lioness is waiting and watching. This fellow goes and has, anybody comes near, is as good as dead. This fellow eats everything, and whatever he leaves behind, they eat. And he walks away from the food, and as he walks away, he looks back. Oh, not bad. This is called Simhavalokanam, and metaphorically, it becomes the method through which we revisit, at the end, what we have been able to accomplish. What we have ingested so far, just like the lion, We have not ingested any prey. We have, prayed for not falling, into the wrong notions of the Atma, falling prey to the wrong notions of the Atma. And so this is a Simhavalokanam, a summation of both the essence of the teaching and the pedagogical tools that are involved, because the two cannot be separated. They are married like Lord Shiva and Parvati. Very interesting. So in the first mantra itself, apahata papma, and everything was vijaraha, vimrityuhu, vishokaha. So we can very clearly see that the methodology involved in the teaching is what? Na iti, na iti. Yeah, at least the first part of it is na iti, not like this, not like this, not like this, not like this, not like this. Not thus. And the negation becomes a very powerful pedagogical tool of the teaching. Precisely because the I is mixed up with the not I. And so the separation becomes a very important beginning tool. In order to see the mix-up and in order to negate whatever doesn't belong, as a strategic exercise, it's an exercise, as a pedagogical exercise, you sift and separate only to unite at the end. So that is one of the, key ways this knowledge is given here. Not this, not this. You point to the body, not this. And that na iti continues throughout all the mistakes that both Indra and Virochana at the beginning and Indra, in the latter half of the chapter continue to make. And each mistake is negated. And the mistake itself is made. Why? Why is the mistake made? Because of lack of clear vision. And lack of clear vision is another way of saying lack of preparedness. And the preparedness is also taken care of by Prajapati saying, dwell here for only 32 more years. 32 more years. And so like this, the preparation is taken care of along with the teachings, which is actually a very sound way to understand this. Because otherwise, being perfectionists, most human beings will say, I'm not ready for the teaching, so I'm not going to attend the class because I'm still low on Shama, I'm still low on Dama, And so here is a very healthy way of getting the preparedness shown by the Upanishad and also side by side pursuing the knowledge, whereby it is revealed that the more clear I am and the more prepared I am, the same knowledge was given right from the beginning to the end, but that same knowledge starts to talk and speak to me in a more clear and deeper way. This is what is understood. So this na iti, neti neti is a very important part of the teaching. And the negation, as I said, is required because the wrong notions and wrong attributes are affirmed for that which is in essence attributeless. So the attributes are negated. And then how is it united? It's very interesting. The not I is brought in as a mere casing, an upadhi for the I to inhabit. Starting with this body. Very beautiful. So the not I is not thrown away. It is suspended in our minds, in our analysis. It is sifted and suspended and set aside in order to get to that presence which abides all upadhis, and the upadhis being mithya, being dependent on that presence. They are not self-standing. All that is self-standing is the I, which is free of all upadhis. This is a very effective way. The neti neti is an effective way to understand this. But the neti neti is followed by iti iti, otherwise we become Buddhists instantly. That's the main thing to understand. It's not that you keep negating, you keep negating up to the negator. Then the negator cannot be negated. That is the whole idea. If the negator cannot be negated, then the negator, even if the negator tries to negate oneself, that negation, that act of negation only affirms the presence of the negator. And that presence alone abides all things. In fact, the word vastu, which means thing, is only used for the Atma. Everything else is a no thing. Yeah, no thing, and Atma is the only thing. So anything that enjoys thingness is because of the thing, without which everything is nothing. Don't ask me to repeat that. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So this is the teaching method here, which percolates and pervades the entire 8th chapter very beautifully. And within this large rubric of the neti neti and iti iti, the negation and the affirmation, which are happening simultaneously, as this is unfolding on this canvas of neti neti iti iti, there are a few other pedagogical tools that we can appreciate, that are ornamenting the entire chapter, that we can appreciate. The main one, which Adi Shankara points out in the Bhashya, is called Shakha Chandra Nyaya. Nyaya is a kind of a logic, a kind of a thing. And there are 40 such Nyayas. And we have seen some of them. The Hali Deepa Nyaya. Remember what that one is? The light, the light which is kept on the compound of two yards. Which one is it going to? Which yard? Which compound is it going to light up? Both of them it's going to illuminate. So that is the Hali Deepa Nyaya. And then what else have we seen? Prathama Malla Nyaya, we have seen that. What is that? How do you become a wrestling champion? Remember that one?
Defeating the current.
By defeating the current wrestling champion, the sitting champion, you defeat. You don't have to fight with every person on the street. And so that is Prathama Malla Nyaya. And then here another Nyaya is used, which is also used in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And when we studied portions of that, I had pointed this out, so it will speak to you. Shakha Chandra Nyaya. Shakhayoho madhye, Shakhayor madhye Chandraha. Chandra means moon. Supposing somebody from, a moonling, somebody who lives on the moon, let us say the moon has life, and the one who lives on the moon has never seen the moon because they are living on it, correct? So they take a trip to Earth and they say that I want to see the moon because they have no idea where it is. You don't know moon, you have never seen the moon. And there is a nice crescent moon like a low hanging fruit, but they are not able to see it. And so you can't show them the moon because they are not ready to see it, they have no concept of it. And so what do? Can you see this tree? Yes, this is a tree. Okay. Can you see the branch of this tree? Yes. Can you see that the tree also has another branch at kind of 45-degree angles? Yes. What do you see in between the two branches? That's the moon. So, and you can make this nice and long like the 8th chapter has done. You start by saying, can you see the ground? Can you see the hillock? Can you see the tree on top of the hillock? Which tree? There are many trees. Well, can you see the tree which is neither too short nor too tall? In between the two tall trees, can you see this slightly shorter tree? Yes. And then this tree has, several branches. Which branch do you want me to look at? I want you to look at the left branch. And I want you to look at the lowest left branch and the one slightly higher to that. Oh, so that is the moon. In each time the person is impatient. The moonling is, impatient. Do you see the earth? Oh yeah, that's the moon. No, that's not the moon. Do you see the hillock? Yes, that must be the moon. No, that's not the moon at all. Do you see the trees? Oh, the trees are the moon? No, those are just trees. Do you see the shorter tree in between the two tall trees? Aha, that's the moon. No, that's not the moon. What else is it? You have to look for the branch. Okay, that is the moon. Now I know moon is equal to branch. No. You're branching out in the wrong direction. Look at the other branch. Oh, the other branch is the moon? No. What do you see in between? Oh, that is the moon, yes. Why this roundabout way? Because that which is the most obvious is the most difficult to recognize. And the most obvious thing is also the most hidden thing because it cannot be objectified. And the student who has come to study this, who has come to understand the self, who has come just for that same purpose, and even though one may see the fact that, it is very difficult to objectify, and yes, I know it's impossible to objectify and it is me, but still, because of lack of preparation and because of usually, there not being enough Shraddha in the operation of the pramana. Shraddha here means the trust that if I just allow this to speak to me, it will speak to me. That trust is something that is, in short supply. It is something that has to be cultivated because it is one of the most important qualifications to gain this knowledge, is this trust. And so that trust is lacking because the preparation is lacking. And so how do you teach? The Upanishad is beautiful and Prajapati deploys this method of teaching very nicely. How do you teach a person who is not knowing, who is not ready to see this? That which is very obvious. Everybody knows the moon. Prasiddha. Everybody knows Atma. Everybody knows Prasiddha. It is the, it is the, what is that? It is the cause of the universe, Prasiddha. But how is it Prasiddha? How is it famous? As myself, not as an object. And so the knower has such a strong hold in the psyche. The knower abides with such tenacity that it is very difficult to displace the knower. And if you tell the knower, get up, leave, I'm going to teach, the knower says no. Yeah. Would you mind sitting on the floor and letting Rahul have the chair?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Please.
You're okay?
Chair is not beneficial.
Okay, you sit where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Then, the more you tell the knower, you need to get out of the way. The knower says no. The knower says, this is all I know. And this is how I have come to know each and everything. And if you say Atma is the thing, this is how I am also going to know this thing. Because this is how I have come to know everything. Oh, but that everything is mithya. Mithya. What mithya all the time you're saying? If all my knowledge, means of knowledge works for mithya, then it should work for this also. Why can't it work? So this is the reason why, a roundabout method, what appears to be a roundabout method of the teaching has to necessarily be deployed, because the mind of the students all turned around. It's a roundabout way. And this knower is ahankara with identified, the I notion, identified in a place of control and in the place of controlling the world through objectification of each and everything in it. And this is what, when you see the process of colonization, this is what the colonizers did. The British came to India and went so many other places. And what did they do? They put everything in boxes. Everybody was in a box. Everything was in a box. And then you start naming things. So all the road names were changed. All the road names were, Curzon Street. And, all named after the viceroys and the vice chancellors and all these people, governors, and Mountbatten Road, Curzon Street, all this. And after independence, then all the governments that came into power, the main agenda was to change back Curzon Street into Shivarama Krishna Iyer Street, back to that. And the people living on Curzon Street were very ashamed that their street had been changed back to some local hero with a long name. Indian names are very long. And everybody used to be ashamed because they were all kind of internally colonized. So the point is to illustrate that this power of naming and the power of objectifying is a very, tenacious power. And to displacing that is not easy. That's why you have to deploy a trick. A trick means a pedagogical trick to make one see that which is already a swatha siddha vastu. To make one see that thing which is already self-established. It doesn't need a pramana. It doesn't need a pramana that you already operate. It doesn't need any of those things because it cannot be objectified. Oh, so sad, Atma cannot be objectified. It need not be objectified because it is self-evident. Svatasiddhatvat, it need not be objectified. It cannot be objectified. And all the means of knowledge that I have in my repertoire are useless to know this. And yet one persists in using that, and that becomes a big block for the Shastra to operate upon oneself. And that brings us to the next pedagogical technique, rocking the inner child and waking up the adult simultaneously. Because the inner child is this resistance, embodies this resistance, the fear of what will happen. Because the main fear on part of the inner child is for it to be decimated. It is afraid that it's going to become nothing. And it was already abandoned, it was already neglected, it was already in pain, and nobody took care of it. And now it is going to be annihilated. That is its fear. And so the inner child might dig in its heels as the knower, or perhaps it's just the ahankara as the knower, whatever it be. So the two things have to be taken care of simultaneously, at the same time. And here we see how beautifully Prajapati handles this. We have already seen that. This is just a summary. And the Shakha Chandra Nyaya, we see how it does that. It is the person seen in the eye, meaning the eye of the eye of the eye, that which makes one see, which itself is without sight, without being the seer, without any status. It is the presence without which there is no seer, without which there is no seeing, without which there is no sight. Itself is sightless, seerless, statusless. That was the intention. It is the Purusha seen behind the eye, and of course they came to their own conclusions. And the conclusions were affirmed as a way of just allowing the knower to just be pacified. Because the knower cannot be suddenly removed, because the student has to be ready. The Shraddha has to come slowly in the Pramanya of the Shruti, in the power of the Shruti to speak to me. Because usually the knower is accustomed to being in charge of the means of knowledge. And in this particular means of knowledge called Veda, Shruti, you have to be what? You have to be led. You don't operate it. It operates upon you. Yeah, that's why there is a feeling of out of control. And then people often say, I was fine until I started to study Vedanta. And then something happened. Therefore, what is the culprit? Vedanta is the culprit. Vedanta is not the culprit. Vedanta just brings to light everything. And if you study Vedanta and notice a few cobwebs in the mind, it is just because it is lit up. It was lit up there for you to see and then do some housekeeping. Top story housekeeping. That's basically what the whole thing is. And so now, this means of knowledge operates upon one. And as we know, in any operation, in any local operation, the patient has to be anesthetized, correct? Yeah. Without that, how can the operation take place? In fact, the anesthesia is as much for the benefit of the patient as for the doctor. The doctor doesn't want you to say, are you using the right size scalpel? Are you cutting in the right place? Are you doing this? The doctor doesn't want your input. In fact, your input is useless. And so you have to trust the doctor. Before that, you have to trust the anesthesiologist, who you have never met. Surgeon you have met, but the anesthesiologist is new, you don't even know. And you are already on the gurney being wheeled to the operation theatre. So, I am your anesthesiologist. Okay. What is your weight? That time nobody lies about their weight. Because the anesthesia is given in connection to that. And then they will say, please sign on the dotted line. And by that time, you're already stressed about the surgery, and then you're already in the operation hall, and you're seeing all these instruments, and the surgeon is behind the gown and the mask. You're not even making eye contact. And all these strangers, and then, you don't know what you're signing. You can't even read it. Of course, they have taken away your glasses. You can't read it anyway. And then what? Then you say, okay, what does it say? Well, there may be 1 or 2 chances. Everybody comes back. But if you don't come back, it's not our fault. Please sign on the dotted line. That is Shraddha. That you sign even without looking. Is Shraddha. And that same Shraddha is needed here. And Prajapati very nicely anesthetizes the knower. Sometimes by confirming and sometimes by negating, but mostly by confirming the knower, by keeping the knower in place in a very small way, by giving the knower a small kingdom to hold on to. Yes, Atma is the person in the reflection. Oh, I know this, I know. Yes, you know, but stay here for 32 more years. Very beautiful. So this Shakha Chandra Nyaya, it's not a small thing, it's not an ordinary thing. It's a Rama Bana, it's a Rama's arrow that cuts through this sense of control and orienting my surroundings by deploying this sense of control. So that control is gently taken away, and the knowledge is given, and the ability of absorbing the teachings, the ability to which the teachings are absorbed, are incumbent upon the ability to which one is able to let oneself be anesthetized. Let this pramana operate on me. That is what makes the difference between those who know and those who find it very difficult to understand this. So that trust of being led we see very beautifully in Indra, and to a certain extent also in Virochana. Both of them came together, both of them gave up a lot of things, both of them were in some ways ready, but in other ways not ready. And we also saw the costs of not readiness. What happens? You go away, as Prajapati lamented yesterday in the class. What did he say? Here they leave, here they depart, without understanding this, without inquiring into this. And then it's one thing if you go without inquiring, but what he meant is, if you don't inquire, the Atma becomes a sitting duck for wrong conclusions. And those wrong conclusions is equal to samsara. That is really what samsara is. It's a bunch of wrong conclusions and a subjective worldview running one's life and running one to the ground. This is what it is. And so these wrong conclusions are suspended. The wrong conclusions are removed. First suspended, then removed. And that is why Indra had to come back and dwell for another 32 years. And then another 32 years. And then 5 more years. At which time all the desire for controlling one's universe, the desire for, what is that? The raga dvesha to preside over one's worldview, all that was already gone. And then the knowledge very easily comes to rest, because the knowledge is not being given really. All the encumbrances and the resistance are being removed to seeing what is already plainly understandable, because it is you. And that's why this knowledge is not dependent upon memory. It doesn't have anything to do with memory. Atma is not dependent upon memory. Memory is dependent upon Atma. That's why you can say, I am not remembering things very well. You are observing that. Because it is you. And so, Indra understands this. After 101 years of living in close proximity to the teacher and the teachings. And Adi Shankara in the concluding mantra, in the bhashya of the concluding mantra that we just read, we are going to come to, he says something very beautiful. He says that lest we think, who has the privilege of staying 101 years with the Guru? Just a lucky one like Indra, who happens to be a celestial, so the timeline is different. And who happens to have a lot of punya, because don't think Indra means, it's an ordinary fellow. Like the name suggests, it's all luster and blessing, all punya. You see, we believe that to be incarnated in a body on the earth or an earth-like place, one has to have a mixture of papa and punya. And then to have a body of an animal, plant, animal, insect, etc., it is papa pradhana sharira. So, primarily, papa overpowers the punya. And even though there are some differences. I told this story once before also. When I was young, we would all run out on Sunday afternoon to see this. To see this very strange sight. In the place where I stayed, there were hardly any vehicles even on the road. Nobody owned anything. Nobody owned vehicles. Small town. And there was this rich people who lived on top of the hill. And they had this Impala car. It was always rubbed down and kept in mint condition. And then the chauffeur would come and take it for a drive. And all the children in the neighborhood came to watch this. And what they came to watch was not the car. The car had convertible. It was the thing, the top could be off. 2 huge huskies, those Alsatians, one on each side, going for their weekly drive. And they hated children, and they would see us and bark, 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 and we would run after the car as much as we could. Teasing them, I suppose. Or not even teasing them, we were so fascinated that there is a car just for dogs, So all dogs are not alike, even though there is an expression, every dog has its day. These dogs had a very good day, very good time. Free things to bark at. These pesky little children, nice open air drive, and compare that to the local moti. Every dog in India is called moti. The local moti is usually 3-legged, nondescript brown red fur, and it's the target of every street urchin. It hangs around the fishmonger. Fishmonger says shoe. Then it goes across to the bakery across the street, and the baker says shoe. Everybody keeps saying shoe, shoe, and throwing shoes and throwing everything. And it has come under several cars and then survived. And then it is not, even in the dog life, there is the Papa Punya hierarchy is there. Yeah. First world dog, imagine. Third world dog, yeah, there is a big difference. So then there is Punya Pradhana Sharira. There is even a celestial dog called Sarama. Yeah. There is a story about that, Sarama. And I'm tempted to tell it, but I won't. But I will say this, that in Sanskrit, translation is everything. So the Sarama had some babies and the story goes. And the translator, very unfortunate translation, the story was translated thus: Sarama, the divine bitch, So we have to be careful, A totally unintended meaning comes. If you don't understand this, if you don't understand how to use the language, a completely unintended meaning comes. So Sarama, even Sarama is Punya Pradhana Sharira because she's, heavenly dog. Yeah. Very interesting. And so all the celestials have a lot of Punya. And so Indra is just brimming with Punya. And so lest we think, Adi Shankara says in the Bhashya to the last mantra of this chapter, lest we think that this is just for Indra who has so much punya, who has the privilege of remaining with the Guru for 101 years. I mean, are you crazy? And if you are tempted to say that, Adi Shankara says, stop. Don't go there. Why not? Because you are just re-inscribing what was already negated for the Atma. What was that? Remorse, regret, feeling singled out, feeling like I don't deserve this. He says the purport of the story is entirely different. Indra becomes a shining example of the parampara in which we all have the privilege of having the teaching close to us, having the teacher close to us, if we want, even to this day. That is what to take out of this story. Not to just keep re-inscribing and rehearsing the same pain that has already been addressed, negated, cleaned up, negated for the definition of the I. And this pain and sorrow is not intrinsic to the depiction of the I. And this is all pointed out in Adi Shankara's beautiful Bhashya, concluding Bhashya. So we derive happiness from Indra and say, look, and we derive confidence. Even he being a celestial and even he being full of punya took 101 years, there is hope for me. Definitely there is hope for me. Because if he can do it, I can also do it. So that is what is to take from this. Then, in terms of the teaching, another pedagogical tool that is used here throughout is the technical term I will use first and then explain what it is. Adhyaropa and apavada. Adhyaropa, superimposition. Aropa, superimposition. Apavada, removing that superimposition. Like, what is our stock example of superimposition? Rope snake. That's why it's called Aropa, because the sages knew. And this is why the English language is so much fun to teach Vedanta in. Aropa, where the rope is mistaken for the snake. So what is being superimposed upon the rope? All non-rope dharmas, correct? Yeah. You don't superimpose rope upon rope. That's boring. Who does that? If you see the rope and say, I see a rope on the rope, then that's not aropa. You should see a non-rope, on the rope, in place of the rope, rather. So a non-rope is superimposed upon the rope. In other words, a serpent is superimposed upon the rope. And first you see it with misgivings. And what is this? This is the projection of the subjectivity, one's own subjectivity, which is nothing but the inner child, the view of the inner child, colored by its own fears and desires. And the fears and desires make for two kinds of movements: approach and avoid. Pravritti, approach; avoidance, nivritti. So when you see another aropa, what is that? Another stock example: walking on the beach. Shuktika. You see the mother of pearl, and then what do you mistake it for? Rajat, silver. And you say silver dollar because you've just read that the government has released some $10 silver things. And you run. It's not easy to run in the sand, but somehow you run. And then, so there it's the pravritti, and here what? Rope snake, nivritti, eek, snake, run. And where is the silver? In my own projected desire. Where is the serpent? In my own projected fear. That's why when the rope is diagnosed and understood as the rope, the serpent, you don't see the serpent slithering away. It's not that the serpent was covering the rope and it slithered away. What happened to the serpent? That projection is withdrawn. That projection, which was released, has been withdrawn. So adhyaropa means a superimposition. Apavada, the negation of this superimposition. And we see this method beautifully, deployed. And somebody wrote in some Vedanta text, there is a verse, one half of which reads, Adhyaropa apavadabhyam nishprapancham prapanchyate. That which is free of the five elements and elementals, that Atma is now populated with the five elements, etc., is seen as populated with the five elements because of this dual pedagogical tool which comes in pairs called Adhyaropa and Apavada. Very beautiful. And so here what is the Adhyaropa and Apavada? So that being which is bodiless, mindless, senses-less, free of body, free of mind, free of senses, free of raga, free of dvesha, free of old age, free of disease, free of death, is seen deliberately as being possessed of attributes. And then the attributes are questioned and the attributes are slowly negated to be able to see the being as it is. But then why bring in the attributes? Because the attributes are already there. Why talk about the mix-up? Because the mix-up has already happened here. And that's why Prajapati's first instruction is it's the person seen in the eye. Oh, in the water? Yes. In the land? Yes. In here? Yes. In the mirror? Yes. So body is Atma. For 32 years they are laboring under this misconception. Body is Atma, and this misconception is affirmed before it is denied. It is affirmed because it's already affirmed as a conviction right here in the head. It's already affirmed. In fact, one is convinced that Dehoham, I am the body. One is already convinced. So the teaching is not, that's why the teaching is not, leading, the Prajapati is not misleading the students. Prajapati is just confirming that this mistake is existing. This mistake you have already made. In fact, it's a mistake. That's what it is. And so this mistake you have already made. And then what? No, that's not it. In fact, the Atma is not the one with the body. It is the one who is the dreamer. The next thing he was told. It is the one who is dreaming. Perhaps Prajapati said it is the one that, in the dream, the one that is capable of projecting, sustaining, and taking back all the projections. That's what the Atma is. So now the Atma has a new epithet. Superimposed upon the Atma is the status of the dreamer. The Atma is free of that status. Essentially free of that status, but sports that status. And mixed up with that status, there is wrong knowledge. And that mix-up has already happened. Prajapati is not doing that mix-up. Prajapati is affirming that the mix-up is taking place and is highlighting that mix-up in order to sift and separate and see the Atma. See the Atma means know the Atma. This is what is called Anveshanam. The enquiry is very thorough. And the examples that are used in this Adhyaropa and Apavada are examples not just from everyday life, are intimate examples having to do with the universal yet private experiences of waking, sleep, dreaming. They are universal and yet very private to me. And so I start with this own body, I start with all the things that are attributed on this I, in terms of the body, in terms of the various states, sleeping, dream, waker, and also what? Karta, I am the doer. And then what? Karta becomes Bhokta. Then Bhokta is not happy with whatever is there. Bhokta comes back to Karta because I want to do things differently, and the doing things is always one's undoing. Becomes Bhokta, Karta, Karta, Bhokta, Karta, Bhokta, Bhokta, Karta, Bhokta, Karta, Karta, Bhokta. These are also superimpositions upon the Atma that is free of both Kartritvam and Bhoktritvam. And all this is shown through this teaching methodology, Adhyaropa and Apavada. So it's not that you deliberately superimpose, you highlight the superimposition and then negate it. Because without highlighting it, it cannot be negated. And in the same vein, the unconscious is also a superimposition upon the Atma. It has to be. How can it not be? The unconscious is a superimposition upon the Atma, because everything is a superimposition. And the unconscious becomes a superimposition because the child doesn't have the wherewithal to deal with any hurts, fears that it has, or misperception. So it internalizes everything, and so that the internalization is minimal and so that it can continue to grow, Mother Maya puts a little cloth over, just like when you have a chirping bird and you want it to go to sleep, you put a cloth on the cage and then the bird goes to sleep. So here too, Mother Maya puts a cloth, a cloak, that is called the unconscious, so that there is a split and a separation, so that the child is able to grow without being encumbered by the hurts and pains. Oh, so it is under a cloak, right? Yes. Then why should I look at it? Why should I peek under the cloth? You are not peeking under the cloak. Things from under the cloak are fighting to come out. You see one hand, one leg, everything. You see motion and movement. It's like a volcano waiting to erupt under the cloak. But when does it erupt? When one is an adult, when one is able to handle it, and when one feels safe enough to feel unsafe. Usually comes out after marriage, because because of all the people this one has elected to be able to stay with me. That means, the unconscious feels safe enough to say, okay, deal with me. Until marriage I was okay, everything was okay. That's how it is. Then it comes out, like the Hawaiian volcano, doesn't stop, keeps coming, lava everywhere. And that is when one has to take care of it. Everything from yoga, therapy, inner child work is all very much needed to be able to understand what is happening. Because the temptation is to blame somebody in front. You are the cause of my despair, and if you were not in my life would go a lot smoother. Okay, remove the person. Another person comes along, then the other person also becomes a trigger, then the third, then the fourth, and finally the finger has to point back here. I always say, you spot it, you got it. If you see something that is making one annoyed, you spot it, you got it. That's all, there is nothing else. And if you got it, then you have to take care of it. There's one advertisement, got milk. I never understood that. Got milk, ? Got inner child, ? That's how it is. And so, this is, so the inner child is not one particular hurt or one particular misunderstanding. It's a series of them, and in fact, that is not even the inner child. The inner child is sensed in the effects of that, in the sense of the subjective worldview that I have as a result of the previous misperceptions, pains, sorrows, whatever it is. And so, the temptation when it comes out is to outsource the inner child. Give it up for adoption. I don't want it, it's ugly. I don't like it. It's hindering my goals and ambitions in life. In fact, a number of people get married for this reason. Because there'll be somebody to take care of my inner child. Give it up for adoption. I don't want it. And the significant other doesn't want it either. Why? Because the significant other has his or her own plans of giving up his or her own inner child to you for adoption. That's why it doesn't work. That's why they call the marriage honeymoon stage. Meaning, you get to know each other's inner child, and then afterwards you say, okay, I need space. The honeymoon stage is over. Because after you have had one look at the other one's inner child, you already don't, you want to, just like Indra would not look at Virojana, this is how you don't want to look at your own inner child. Why would you want to look at another's inner child? No way. In the beginning it's all nice, and afterwards it's a big pain. Exactly. And and therefore, it is incumbent, even though it's so tempting to give it up for adoption, it is incumbent upon me to learn to be a parent to this inner child. This is what it is. I have to raise it. But I don't like it. What is there not to like? It's a blessing that it kept me from just having a horrid life, and in spite of the difficulties in the early childhood, I was able to do whatever I wanted. It's a blessing. That it is coming out is also a blessing. I'm getting to know myself a little more. I recognize the triggers. First, recognizing the triggers are important. So everybody has to have a kind of an acquaintance with one's issues. What are the issues? And once you know that and you're able to look at it lovingly, it is Bhagavan. Because in the face of these issues, I am helpless. And whenever I see the helplessness, it is Bhagavan. Because there is some other law that is pervading here that's out of my control, out of my whole, comfort zone here. So recognizing this Bhagavan, I work on it. I have to slowly work on it. I have to make sure that I learn how to parent the inner child. First, I have to earn its trust, because whole life I have, neglected it. I have been busy. I have filled my life up with all kinds of filler-uppers, addictions and habits, including, work and distractions. So when you say, come on inner child, I'll take care of you, it's going to show its tongue to you. Yeah, right. You just say that. So you have to actually do that. You can't just say, I'll take care of you. So the next time it decides to explode in public, you're giving a big speech, or you're, or there's some big function is there and you're organizing something. And the inner child says, I'm coming out right now. And so you try your best to tell it the same thing you have always told it. Not now. Why not now? Because I promise I will take care of you later. And you have to hold up to the promise even though it doesn't trust you. And if you start feeling bad that it doesn't trust you, that means you have identified with it. You have to keep that playful separation. That playful separation is needed. And that's inner space. And you have to watch it. And you have to say it. So how do I spend time, quality time with the inner child? You have to make some time where you're not very busy, where you're not always filling up the life. But have a cup of tea. Inner child is fear. Welcome the fear. And when you welcome the fear, it doesn't know how to be afraid. It stops being afraid. Welcome the sorrow. Make a cup of tea for it. Okay, what are you sad about? What happened here? Write it out, paint it out, walk it out, hike it out, whatever it is. Whatever works, everybody has a different way. That is the safety valve. In India we use pressure cookers a lot. And then sometimes when the safety valve is dysfunctional, I saw one such pressure cooker when I was small, I'll never forget. And I went to these people's kitchen. The whole kitchen was yellow. It was dal in the pressure cooker. It had exploded. And what was fun was that the lid was stuck to the ceiling in the dal. Yeah, that's what is called blowing the lid. Yeah, this is what it is. So this is the safety valve. Without the safety valve, there is an explosion that happens. Once it starts to explode, it's like the Hawaiian volcano. Doesn't stop. Keeps coming. And so therefore, I have some ways in which to help it come along. I cannot outsource it. And also, too much pandering will just strengthen it. So just the right amount of pandering. And of course people will say, what is the right amount? It varies from situation to situation, from issue to issue. It varies. So the right amount of attention, the right amount of pampering, the right amount of addressing it, the right way of addressing it. And after a while what happens? There is a change. You don't encounter it as much. So the frequency of the eruptions of the inner child are reduced, and the intensity of the eruptions are also reduced, and the recovery time after the inner child attack is also reduced. I feel more like myself, present, curious, able to access my compassion and accommodation, less subjective, more objective. This is how one sees how much work is being done on the inner child when it starts to erupt less and less with fewer episodes, less intensity and less recovery time needed in between the episodes. Then I know I am on the right track. Inner child needs, one needs the help of Bhagavan. If you can outsource the inner child, it's only to put it on Bhagavan's lap. No one else will take it. That is why the prayer becomes a very important component of inner child work, because I'm helpless in the face of my anger. I'm helpless, I'm defeated in the face of my depression. I'm helpless in my anger. I'm helpless in my non-accommodation, my reactivity, my jealousy. And so therefore what I have to do is bring in Bhagavan. Here you created this fellow, you take care of him. Help me to take care of him. And that, when that Bhagavan becomes an altar of surrender for the inner child, we have this beautiful Murti of Lord Dakshinamurti, we have this beautiful image where the collective inner child is as though at the foot of Bhagavan. We see that. This mutant fellow, looks like a child, but is a truncated adult, offensive and defensive. And the Lord has just put his foot gently. He's not trying to squash the child. Lord has gently put the foot, his right foot on the child. Heel, H-E-E-L, H-E-A-L, both. Allowing this to take place. So it's not that it is dispensed with. The inner child is integrated through surrender and prayer and Shraddha. And of course, this is on the day-to-day level, and also an important component is Shravanam, is to keep listening to the teaching, because this is not a one-time affair. It's not just one retreat, one lecture, one text, one Upanishad, one chapter. That is not the point. The point is that repeated hearing. When I keep hearing, then only I find that the knowledge is adhering to me. Otherwise, it just is a one-time affair. It sounds good, it feels good, a little, the top of the insanity of my life is gone, a little bit of relief. Wonderful. Enough. It's not enough. If one is serious about this, one makes every attempt to put oneself in a place of Shravanam. Every attempt. And when you do that, then it starts to pay off. Just like it did for Indra. It starts to slowly pay off. It starts to have some dividends that are not lost. Because as the clarity grows, the inner child integrates more and more. And if the expression of Vedanta in everyday life is just compassion, gentleness and love, then that love has to start with the inner child. That love has to include all parts of what I call the self. First I negate all of them, and then they are all brought back. When you bring back mithya, while knowing it's mithya, it is not a cause for fear, because it is dependent on me. And that is how Indra gains this knowledge. And in fact, I will also like to say that Indra becomes a student, is a protagonist who gains the knowledge in at least 3 Upanishads. In this Upanishad, Chandogya, then in Kena Upanishad. Again he is partying over there without, and he keeps beating his chest. Asmakameva vijayah, asmakameva mahima iti. This is my glory, and I killed those asuras, and I did this, I did that. And then he is told it was not you. It was not you at all. It was Brahman, it was Bhagavan. And then in the Kaushitaki Upanishad, also, there he is not the student, he is a protagonist, he is the teacher. He is the teacher who, who teaches a king Pratardana. Pratardana dies, and he is a very noble king and goes to Indraloka, goes to heaven. And because he is such a special upadhi, Indra himself escorts Pratardana. And then says, since you have been so noble, ask for whatever you want. And Pratardana very cleverly says, I'll have what you have, what you are having. It's like going to a French restaurant with somebody who is French and not understanding anything on the menu. So better to say, I'll have whatever they are having. It will be safe. So he says, I'll have whatever you think is the best item on the menu, he says, of the menu of the gamut of human desires. And Indra says, what is on the menu of the gamut of the top of the menu is this moksha. And he then proceeds to teach him. So the fact that Indra appears, has an abiding presence in the Upanishads, is just to, reinscribe the fact that if such an exalted figure can gain this knowledge and then become a teacher of it, then it goes to show the seriousness of the pursuit and the special nature of the pursuit, that even the King of Heaven, with all his ego and everything, is able to set this aside and, like a regular student, give everything up and come for this knowledge, including take care of the embarrassing inner child in the form of raga, dvesha, virochana, whatever you want to call that shadow self. And then coming back to this verse, the last verse, ya ete devaha brahmaloke tam atmanam etam atmanam upasate. So all the devas who are nothing but Brahman, they abide as Brahman, they are nothing but Brahman. They are not in Brahmaloka, even though the seventh case is used, it must not be seen like that. So these devas that are just, abiding, living as Brahman, then etam atmanam upasate. This, how do they spend their time? They continue to contemplate on the Atma, they revel in the Atma, Atma kridaha, Atma ratihi, they just are reveling in this I that has been revealed by the Upanishad. They are reveling in this. And then what has happened? Tasmat, therefore, since they are abiding in it and reveling in it, tesham sarvecha loka attaha. Attaha means gained, obtained, and controlled by. So they gain all the lokas. Because what are the lokas? Atma. All the lokas, everything is Atma. This is what is called Sarvatma. Because they understand, they have the master key of the universe, and understanding the very thing that makes everything a thing, without which everything is nothing. Understanding which, they know that everything is that, so everything is as well as gained, as good as gained, because nothing is away from them. Whatever they want, they get, and whatever they want, they already are. There is no unfulfillment, that feeling of lack and that wanting nature, which they thought to be their own nature, that wantingness, that wanting personality has been removed to reveal the complete Purna Purusha, the complete person. And so therefore, sarvamscha lokan apnoti, so they gain all the lokas because they are not separate from them. Sarvamscha kaman api, they also gain all the kamas, all the desires are gained because they are not separate from them. There is nothing to desire because the desirer has been taken care of. The desiring person has been suspended and then eliminated through the knowledge. And then therefore, knowing this Atma, having inquired into this Atma, anuvidya vijanati, this is what Prajapati ultimately declares, that all those who are called devas are the ones abiding as Brahman. Therefore, Prajapati uvacha, Prajapatihi uvacha, it is repeated to show that the end of this particular chapter, to show the end of the chapter. In the olden days they didn't have written, it was all an oral tradition, and so it is repeated twice to show that this is the end of the mantra, this is the end of the chapter. And then we go back to the beginning. ya atma apahata papma vijaraha vimrityuhu vishokah vijigatsah apipasah satyakamah satyasankalpah saha अन्वेष्टव्यः सह विजिज्ञासितव्यः स सर्वांश्च लोकान् आप्नोति सर्वांश्च कामान् यः तम् आत्मानम् अनुविद्य विजानाति इति ह प्रजापतिरुवाच ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Don't go anywhere. Some exciting things will come up shortly. Just a short break, 10 minutes. When we reconvene here, and then we will have the concluding program, and everybody will get a chance to share some things that they are taking away from the retreat and some things they have learnt, whatever touched them, whatever spoke to them. That is very nice. So, because we know that 1/4 of the learning alone takes place from the teacher. Only 1/4. Yeah. What about the other three parts? One of them takes place in time, kalena, because you cannot hurry. That's why the 32 years are given repeatedly. And then the other fourth takes place from the students who are studying with you. That is the whole idea, you know. So the students who are studying with you, and some by yourself, by your own meditation, some in time, and some just a little bit from the teacher, really. So in that spirit, we always at the end of our courses and retreats, we have some time, whenever possible, we make the time to for everybody to share. And today we are happy that there is a lot of time for everybody to share that. And then we will have prasad, farewells, and so just a short 10-minute break, and then we'll come back.